You strongly believe that one day dollar can go to zero.
Yes, that's a guarantee. So, I mean, obviously.
You are the guy who predicted Bitcoin at $1. What will be that three cryptos that you see a huge potential in that can be a life-changing opportunity, same like Bitcoin according to you?
Some cryptos such as maybe outperform Bitcoin.
When the biggest liquidation crypto till date happened, who was the main reason behind that?
Obviously, the Trump family. It's clear right now the Trump family wants to push crypto down.
Meet Davinci Jeremie,
one of the earliest Bitcoin believers who changed the lives of thousands of people in May 2013
by telling people to put just $1 into Bitcoin
when it was under $100.
Today, with a 3 million follower community, he is famous for exposing financial system scams
and educating Bitcoin in a way that everyday people can understand.
You being in this industry for a decade, what 99% does not know what that goes behind the door?
There's lots of stuff that goes on behind the doors. First off, they get the market to manipulate it, and then they become the solution later on.
You have been very vocal about XRP. What's your thought? Like, is it a good investment?
XRP is a scam against humanity. Don't get involved.
What is your price prediction for Bitcoin, Ethereum?
Bitcoin probably be well over, and Ethereum will be probably.
Davinci, today world knows you as a guy who bought Bitcoin at $1. But who was the guy before the Bitcoin? Who was the guy before all of this? Who understood this technology risk? We want to know the guy who world has not seen yet.
Well, before Bitcoin, I was a software developer. I actually started programming when I was 11 years old. My first computer was a VIC-20, and it only had 5K of RAM, and 3 of it was used for the operating system, so you only had 2K to write your software in. And just to get a picture of how small that is in memory terms, if you were to send it an email today, it would use up all the memory on that computer. So yeah, it was very, very small and limited. And so when I remember when I got a Commodore 64 with 64K of memory, I was like, oh my God, unlimited, right? So it was an exciting time for me back when I was just a young child. I've always programmed since then. I've been doing odd jobs, and then I stayed at my last job for 17 years. Just before I moved to Chile, and I wrote their software. Basically, I was the only developer there, even though they pretended they had a whole team of developers, and I actually wrote the complete software and managed the whole software and support and everything for that application that's still in use today, right? It's called File Nexus, and I basically stumbled on Bitcoin when I started realizing how our financial system was a scam, and then you needed to get out of all the standard financial products such as 401k, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, whatever. All that is a scam because you don't actually own it. Somebody else does. Right now, you are allowed to own it until the system collapses, and then it's not yours anymore. And once people realize that, it's going to be interesting because everybody's going to move to crypto because you own it directly. It's no longer owned by a third party or anything like that. And you can actually create contracts to ensure that ownership maintains, right? So of everything that you have, right? For example, I recently wrote a contract on Solana that allows people to own Satoshis, and they can transfer it to the Bitcoin network from Solana straight to Bitcoin, so they don't have to worry about, is those Bitcoins actually mine? Well, transfer it at any time, and it's all written, it's all transparent on the blockchain, and in fact, right, you can even ask your AI to actually verify it, and that's the beauty of AI, because no one's going to be able to lie to you anymore. I mean, the AI still can lie to you, but then but if you really press it, it ends up telling you the truth.
Like you have coded it yourself, the smart contract on Solana.
Yes, I did.
Wow, that's really wonderful. And when it comes to what was your turning point when you found out Bitcoin that made you believe so much?
Well, it started in February of 2011. Somebody sent me an email message. Well, it wasn't an email, but it was on YouTube when they had the messaging system. And they said, "What do you think about Bitcoin?" Because I was talking about gold and silver at the time.
Gold and silver on YouTube.
Yes, on YouTube. And so that's when I started. My channel started off as a gold and silver channel at first, right? And then when somebody mentioned Bitcoin, I looked at it and I thought it was a scam. I said, "Listen, man, this is a scam. I'm going to read through the source code, find out how they're trying to scam you, because there's no way you can have a digital asset that can't be counterfeited is the word, counterfeited, because you can copy and pirate movies, right? You can copy and pirate music. So how do you have digital money? Because you can just copy it.
Yes,
dude. Duh. Right? And so I went into the source code and I realized, oh my God, this guy solved it. This impossible problem, and it's going to work. And I said, I remember doing my first video on it. I said, every once in a while, something comes along that you can buy really cheap, really, really cheap, and be rich one day. This is one of them. Because it solved a problem that was considered impossible to solve on computers. Bitcoin was it, yeah.
Did you had that kind of experience of finding something very early before Bitcoin, or Bitcoin was the first thing?
It was the first time. First time that I ever saw something that was like, okay, this is it. This is going to do it. This is going to make a lot of people millionaires.
If we want to explain someone 10-year-old, what is Bitcoin in like easiest words possible, what will be that?
It's the best form of money because it's something that you can own it directly, and no one can take it away from you. Everything else, someone can force it from you, right, and just walk away and take it and say goodbye and leave you. Whilst this money, they can never take it from you unless you give it to them. You always have to give it to them. They can't just take it from you. And it also is limited supply, so that means no one's going to actually cheat you, right? It's sort of like a ruler, right? You know what a ruler is, right? It has a set of numbers on it, and you can measure stuff, right? Well, this is a set of numbers that you can measure wealth or value on. And why you can measure your value on it? Because of the fixed nature of it. Basically, no one can create more. No one can cheat the system. You know exactly where everything is, and you can plan for the future. And this is that's what makes Bitcoin so special. You could transfer it to anyone in the world, and not only on the world, but off world. When we're living on Mars or on the moon or whatever, it can be transferred there. So it has so much power that it makes no sense to use our current system of money. Zero.
When you saw Bitcoin for the first time and it was around $1, what price target did you had in your mind? Was it like it will ever go to like $1,000, $100, or $100,000, maybe $1 million?
I didn't have a price target in my head because I knew that Bitcoin was going to be money. So when you have it as money, so what's the price? What's the value of a gold priced in Deutschmark, right? Or the Reimark, or Zimbabwe dollars? There's no concept of that. You don't even think about that. You can't even calculate that, right? Well, that's the same logic behind thinking of a price for Bitcoin. It's useless to count it in dollar terms, right? Because the dollar will not exist when it takes over. It's over for the dollars and fiat currency completely. It's just a matter of time. And it takes time for individuals to see the value of what Bitcoin is. That takes time, because just because something is 1,000 times better than what you're using doesn't mean that you're going to go run out and use it. It takes education for you to learn how to use it, which that's why I have a school. And people will eventually get to know what Bitcoin is, because, I mean, when iPhone was first invented, not everybody knew it was a better product to use, right? And it took a long time to get to the number of people that they have today, Well, the same thing applies with Bitcoin. It'll take a long time for a number of people to use it. But once they start using it, you'd be like, and we did what? With what? With dollars? Huh? Why would he do that? That don't make no sense. That's how it's going to be. You'd be like, man, we're stupid, man. Like, if we had credit cards that we had to put in a whole bunch numbers, and then the bank would stop us from buying stuff, and why would we live like that? That's how it's gonna be.
Which year do you think we will be possibly there?
Well, I would have to guess at that, of course, and generally because it takes time for technology, and usually it usually comes when people feel the pain mostly, and the pain is coming for the majority of people because we're at the end of our current fiat system that we're currently in, where money is just pieces of paper that somebody can print, and they are printing and giving it away to the wealthiest, the top bankers. They get free money, right? They get to gamble with your money. You take your money, your dollars or whatever. Let's not call it money. Jesus, take your dollars or paper money, and you put it with the bank, who gets to get a bailout with free printed money, right? When they mess up, because they gamble your money that you've deposited or you're forced to deposit, and then when they screw up, well, that's not a problem, not our problem. We get to take everything else we've got for free. Thank you. Thanks for coming out. That's the game, right? They get away with every single criminal thing on the book, and there's nothing you can do about it because, well, they print money. And because they print money, they can pay people to say, you're going to look the other way.
When you saw Bitcoin for the first time, many people see this as an investment, but it looks like you were seeing it as a money. Like, has that perception changed? You still feel so it's going to be a future of money, or you still think it's a mixture of both investment and money?
Well, for now, I mean, most people consider it an investment, and I have to agree with that sentiment, because you are basically investing in the fact that it will be money, right? The fact that I understand it, that it will be money, is why I hold it, and most people just don't think of it as something, oh, well, I could just make some money, which is your paper money, by holding it for a little bit and selling it later on. Well, yes, you can do that, and that's what has happened to the early adopters. They've now at 100,000, they're selling like crazy, but they're selling to somebody else who understands that it's going to be money. So it's just Michael Saylor, all the treasury companies, and a lot of corporations that understand. Oh, yeah, we're gonna want that, and so we're going to actually manipulate the price so that we make sure that all the long-term holders, they sell to us, because there's only a fixed supply, and the only way for them to get it is somebody else has to sell it. So they will actually try to get you out of your Bitcoin because they need it. That's the only way they can get it. It's from somebody else.
What whale do to get their Bitcoin? Like, is it true that big whales and market makers play with the market to get the Bitcoin of retailers?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you know what? Every single market is manipulated and managed, and so it's just managed at a certain level. So, for example, when Bitcoin first started, it was manipulated by people with a few $1 million, and when it as it grew, just somebody with a few $100 million can manipulate it. So it's normal, right? The fact that if you have enough resources, you can manipulate Bitcoin, and so since the president is obviously behind Bitcoin, he's got a little bit of resources, right? Do you think he can manipulate a couple $1 trillion market? Maybe. Just maybe.
For someone new, like, how does this manipulation exactly works?
Well, they come up with multiple ways of doing it. Most of the time, they allow the market to manipulate itself, right?
Okay.
So what they do, especially when you're in government, is you just create rules in order for people to do the damage themselves to themselves, right? either increased leverage requirements or all kinds of different things, right? Let them borrow against their Bitcoin, let them leverage their Bitcoin, everything, right? Under the sun. And let them have some third-party custodies of Bitcoins, right, so that they can actually help lower the price. Because what you can do is also provide laws so that someone can actually say, hey, I'm going to hold Bitcoin for you, right, and you're going to pay me, but I don't actually hold Bitcoins. I actually get a leased Bitcoin from somebody else, like, so, for example, BlackRock. And I don't need BlackRock to give me the Bitcoins, because I just need to have it on my books. And if I'm leasing it, right, that means I actually technically own it if I put it on my books. And then at the very same time under a lease, it shows that BlackRock also owns the Bitcoins as well. So this is the game that they play. And so now you can buy Bitcoin from another company, which they've made legal, which they don't actually go out and buy some Bitcoin. They just have a lease contract of Bitcoin to lower the price. And this is generally how governments, if they're people in power, how they basically manipulate prices. They don't actually go and do any kind of like direct manipulation. They just get the market to do it.
Okay. Like you being in this industry for a decade, okay, and you have sat down with exchanges, like the biggest names in this industry, market makers. What 99% of the crypto does not know what that goes behind the door? Maybe manipulation. What stuff goes behind the doors?
Well, I mean, there's lots of stuff that goes on behind the doors. I mean, like I said, the manipulation. But of course, it's funny how this always plays out, right? First off, they get the market to manipulate it, and then they become the solution later on, right?
Okay.
Oh, these guys are manipulating the market. We have to shut them down, right? But meanwhile, they already have their position, right? They've already been, because of manipulation, they started buying, right? And so then this is the game, right? So this is what's happening to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is slowly going down because not only because of the cycle, because they've placed a whole bunch of things. They've legislation to ensure that the price comes down, right? It makes it easier for these big guys to manage the price down. And so since they think in larger time frames, like 5 to 10 years, they're not concerned about the lower price in the short term. So they can buy up the asset slowly as more and more people dump it, because it's it's not going up, it's not going higher. This is wasting my time. You've lied to me. And this is the part of the plan. This is the way it works. It's the way the world works, right? Nothing else. And so, and then after 10 years or so, or whatever time frame, maybe 5 years, 10 years, who knows, right? Then they'll point out, wait a minute, these guys are manipulating. How dare they? We're going to stop them. But didn't you say it? No. Don't look at that. Yeah.
Okay, so according to you, like who will be like, do you think so? There is only 5 guys or 5 people in this crypto world who control this whole industry.
I don't think 5 guys in the whole world that controls the industry. There's no one specifically saying, okay, well, I control this industry, so I'm going to just turn it off right now. Really? Is that how it works?
Not with the prices, maybe. Not with blockchain.
No.
No?
Doesn't work that way. No. I mean, they could, hey, listen, anyone who thinks they have any kind of control, they can only do so much, right? They can manage. Here's the thing: they can't manage the price to zero.
Like, for sure.
Obviously, right?
Yeah.
They can't manage the price all the way to like millions of dollars. It just can't happen, right? But they can have some time frames, right, where they can manage the price. So, for example, if they wanted to, they can manage the price down a few $1,000s, or maybe even 10,000, right? Just like Trump did when he said, "Yeah, tariffs, 100% tariffs," right? So obviously, to move the price down $10,000. But that only occurred for a short term, right? The price bounced back, but that was the beginning of a downward spiral. But he temporarily managed the price, right? Affected the price, but it was only temporary, right? Keep that in mind, right? And that's how that's how anyone who has any kind of power all over the free markets, right? That power is only temporary, right? That's it.
Like people came to know about big companies like Blackstone or BlackRock just recently. And is there any companies in crypto that many people even don't know the name about, but they kind of have the lot of control on this whole market? Do you think there are few names?
I mean, their control is not absolute. That's all. So you don't need to worry about it.
Okay.
They have specific control over specific aspects of it. Maybe a small percentage of the price they can move. Maybe they can do. They can convince a few people that to sell, or to buy, but they have a limited capacity on what they can actually do. So to think of it as oh my God, they're complete puppeteers is not the case, right? They're basically somebody who would push things around a little bit, but that's it.
What your thought on 10th October when the biggest liquidation crypto till date happened? Who was the main reason behind that, according to you?
Well, I think obviously the Trump family, it's clear right now the Trump family wants to push crypto down so that they can get as much as they want, right? So I mean, because if you're wealthy, you don't think in short terms like most people do. You think in long terms, right? So most people of the world, they look at, okay, when's this gonna make me a millionaire? Next year? Okay, 2 years from now? No, dude, it doesn't work that way, dude. Right? You need a 5 to 10 year time horizon, right? Especially with these big guys in it, right? You need a longer time horizon, and then you'll see some wealth, a significant wealth increase.
What should a normal person, like someone sitting in India, maybe in Africa, maybe third world countries, should do this because they don't have this much power, they don't have that much knowledge? What should they do?
Well, I think the basic thing is learning how to save and putting all that wealth into Bitcoin over time, because now they're going to manipulate the price lower. That gives you the opportunity to buy into an asset that will go up extremely higher. Now, they're buying it, right? But they're going to be buying at the lows, right? And so effectively, you have a guaranteed practical position because that's what they're doing. They're all in, right? And so, but they want to get as much as they can with a free printed money printer, right? So they got money that they can print as much as they want, but they don't want to go and buy it up like that, because then they won't get as much. They'll get the maximum. They're trying to maximize how much they can get, and the only way they can maximize how much they can get is to get people to sell it. That's it. So that's what they're working on, right? To get more sellers so that they can slowly buy with the free money that they print. That's it. And so for you as an individual looking at that, you can't change that. But what you can do is when you work, you try to reduce your expenses as much as you can, like 50%. You live on less than that, and then you figure it out, and then you put everything else into Bitcoin. You figure out how to reduce your lifestyle. Don't try leverage. Don't do that. That's just a trap to get you liquidated so they can get some free Bitcoin, right? Just basically work and save your Bitcoins for the long term. If you don't want to do Bitcoins, you can go do gold. You can do silver. You can do any other asset you believe that is going to be valuable in the future, because people will use it either as money or will need it for other reasons. Now, obviously, you want money, right? And I think money is an asset that is something that you can store for long term, is durable, and it's fungible, meaning every single unit is the exact same, right? So, for example, unit A of gold and unit B of gold is the exact same, right? Coin, right? That's fungibility. Same with Bitcoin. This Bitcoin over here and this Bitcoin over there is the same. They have the same value, so there's no difference between them. And this is why it makes it the best. This is one of the reasons why it makes it a good form of money, the fungibility. right? It doesn't matter which one you have. And so if you try to save your wealth in chickens, well, problem is chickens are not fungible. Chickens can actually die. Chickens, can go bad, right? So, and then they have different sizes and stuff like that. And you can't really store your wealth long term in chickens, right? But you can store your wealth long term in gold and silver and, of course, Bitcoin.
But this conviction Bitcoin came after a decade of experience in this industry, seeing all the ups and downs and cycle.
Not really.
Not really?
No, it came immediately after I read the source code and understood what it was
In 2011.
in 2011. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because the reason why, because I'm a software developer, I understand two things, right? I'm a software developer and I studied monetary history.
Okay.
Because back in 2008, I learned that our financial system is a fraud. It transfers wealth from the poor and the middle class to the rich because these guys can fucking print money and steal everything you've got, right? So this is our system. Don't cry about it. Don't say it's unfair. It is what it is. You woke up in the matrix. Live with it. So with that said, you need to exist in this current reality, and so you have to understand how it works. Well, once you understand how it works, the real money is the gold and silver. Okay, so I started buying that, right? And I got out of all my stocks, all my bonds, I even sold my house, which you should never mortgage a house for, but that's another story, why you don't do that. Because, well, it is really simple. The banks print money and lend it to you. They didn't work for it. That makes you a slave. So why are you lending them to make you a slave by signing on a dotted line? Don't make no sense. Right? Right? So don't do that, right? Don't go into debt, right? Because why would you allow them to be to be their slave? It's just asinine. Right? So basically, you just need to store your wealth in Bitcoin. And as I was saying, I studied this, and one of the things why I knew that this was going to work was because I knew that we did use gold and silver as money before. And the reason why we went with paper as money is because we don't want to transfer gold. It's heavy. It's difficult to transfer, and someone could steal it as we move along. It's not the greatest asset to move with, right? It's great to store maybe in your house, but then again, somebody could rob your house, right? So that's why we came up with banks and then paper money, paper notes. But the problem is, every time we did that, every single time, what would happen is either the bank would create more paper notes, or the government would create more notes. And then the money would collapse, right? And this is why in India, part of your religion is to actually have gold, right?
Yep.
Because this has happened the most times in history. Your history is filled with 2,700 times of fiat money going to zero. And so it became part of your religion because people just fucking don't understand. The paper's not the money. Right? It's not the money. It's not, right? They just couldn't get it in their head. So this is why religion made it part of your religion, because you're not getting it. And so what I understood was the issue with gold is that we want convenience, and gold does not provide convenience, right? Digital assets do, right? Provide the convenience. But the problem with the digital asset is that we need somebody to trust them, right? For example, your bank, the way it works is that you trust the bank to keep an account, a digital account of how much dollars you gave them. And that's all it is, right? It's not really anything other than you're trusting them to keep the account balance correct. How do we eliminate that trust? Well, Bitcoin solved that, eliminated that trust by creating a digital ledger that cannot be tampered with, cannot be broken, and you know that if you have those Bitcoins, no one else has them, and no one else can take them.
Like, you strongly believe that one day dollar can go to zero.
Yes, that's a guarantee, because I mean, if you ask any AI system, hey, can the US dollar last forever and ever? And it's like, obviously not.
No.
It'll tell you, right? So, I mean, obviously. So, yeah, it's going to zero. And whether or not...
What are the timelines in your mind?
I think within your lifetime. Anybody's who's watching it, it's within your lifetime, basically. That's the timeline. I'm not going to say exact date, because that's impossible.
That's impossible.
Right? But it will happen, and it will be brutal for most people, because everybody just focus on dollars being real value, and it's been a fiat money for the last 50 years, and so it's hard for people to really conceptualize what it truly is. That it's a promise to pay you nothing, right? It's just people are using it to pay off their debt. That's it.
We have seen the history where like pound, dollar, Dutch currency was there in the past and was dominating at that point of time. What made you believe that not yuan, not a big BRICS currency, not any other strong country currency will replace dollar, but Bitcoin will do so?
The reason what's my conviction? Why do I believe that this is going to happen?
Why only Bitcoin, not any other currency? But still, most of the world need to learn about Bitcoin, but they already know about yuan or BRICS.
Well, here's the thing, right? Bitcoin, right, will be the center of all money, right? Because of the fact that all these governments and corporations, they really don't trust each other, but it's all about like having faith, right? That everybody's going to do whatever or do what they say they're going to do. But they're all trying to scheme and plot against each other and behind the scenes by creating either laws or planning of laws or whatever in order to screw the other person over, right? One way or the other, right? And so what keeps us from going crazy is that we trade with each other. And we're always going to need something to trade with. And on top of that, you need an asset that can be store a large amount of money, wealth in it. And it's, believe it or not, it's not the dollar that's being stored. That major money is stored in. Do you know what most of the money is stored in? Bonds. Right? On average, $70 trillion worth of trades go on every month with bonds. I've asked my audience, so how many of you guys have bonds? Oh, that's right, none of y'all. That's right.
True.
But at the same time, right, the corporations, they have bonds because it's the best asset to use to transfer around and to hold a large sums of money. Well, now Bitcoin can actually be that asset. Why? Because one, you don't have to trust. It's not no counterparty risk. The bond suffers through counterparty risk. If the government decides to print more, you're screwed. If they don't agree to pay the bond yield, you're screwed, right? So you suffer from counterparty risk when you hold a bond. When you hold a Bitcoin, it is effectively payment in full. It is the end result, the end value is not somebody else's liability, right? You don't have to trust that somebody else is going to perform. That's it.
True ownership.
Exactly. It's true value, meaning not true ownership, true value. Right? The value comes from everyone else, of course, knowing that, hey, this is true value because no one else can scam me. You have no way for someone else to scam me or screw me over. That is the value of Bitcoin. No one else can screw me over when I hold it. Boom.
Okay. You also spoke about like this dollar devaluation. And right now world is seeing AI bubble, geopolitical tensions, this startup hype and everything. At this kind of scare people that a huge crash is coming for a very long period of time. A recession is coming.
Of course.
Do you think so? And if someone, just normal person watching this video, maybe in India, maybe just 20-year-old, what should they do right now? What's a normal investor should do right now to preserve their
yeah,
wealth?
the system, like I've talked to AI about this because there's a clear eruption going on. Like we said before, gold and silver has been money for the longest time. In fact, silver is the word silver in 14 different languages is actually synonymous with money. And and that economic reality is always present. And so if there's a default, meaning there's no way for people to convert their dollars to actual gold or silver, that shows a problem with the money now, doesn't it? Right? So there seems to be a little bit of a rumbling going on with the silver market. You'll notice that silver in the last 4 months has doubled.
Yes. And
Right?
gold
And
perform
why
well.
is that? Is because they kind of miscalculated when they tried to push, because these guys tried to push the price of silver down for so long. And they managed to do so because the world was awash with silver because we used to use it as money. And so they held it down for such a long time that people thought, well, this supply and demand means that wait a second, silver is abundant. There's silver everywhere, right? People are not considered because you're thinking dollars is real money, so you're not thinking that silver is like being manipulated, right? It's just the right price because everything's fair, right? But what was really happening is that the banks, governments, and corporations were suppressing the price of silver, so much so that we used it all. We used everything that we used to save, because remember, when we used it as gold, it was used as money, there was stockpiles of somebody had it somewhere to back up the actual paper money. So all those piles of silver that they used to store, that were using for money, got used up because they used it in different applications. And because it was so cheap, we didn't bother recycling it. And so effectively, it's now used in such micro quantities that it's practically gone forever. Unless, of course, price reaches a high enough price, which would have to be the price of gold. But anyways, that's another story. So effectively, now we're at a point where we're running a silver deficit, meaning that the amount of silver that we mine cannot keep up with the amount of silver that we use. And then on top of that, all the silver that we used to use as money is gone. There's no stockpiles from governments anywhere. And so they've got a problem. If the Crimex, which is really Comex, but I call it Crimex, defaults on silver, this could trigger, right, a collapse in the beginning of the collapse of the fiat system, because people will realize that, wait a second, I can't buy goods anymore. The one good, which used to be money, anymore. Whoops. Because it's all gone. And this price is fictitious. Whoops. So that could end up cascading into something very violent, and the violent collapse of the currency could. Don't know if it will, but AI says, that does not look good. Right? This is not good.
It's scary.
Yes, this is not good. It's not scary in a sense. I mean, here's the thing. Just so you know, just because if the fiat system collapses doesn't mean our whole civilization collapses. Like everybody dies. No, everything remains here. Everything's still here. All the infrastructure, all the companies, they're still here. Dude. Life does not end. because fiat money stops working.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's just the value of that fiat money transfers to something else. That's it.
But this whole system is very much interlinked, right? Fiat is connected with stock market, gold market, silver market, commodities, even crypto. When this kind of thing will happen, like if we will see a great, like big crash, the whole thing will kind of collapse. Like the whole system is like a pile of stock.
Yeah, I mean, but it's can be all reset, right? And all be done again. It's not like we're all gonna die here. We'll live. We'll manage. We'll manage. Yeah, maybe you'll lose your bank account, and you should actually. Technically, you should. Here's why. You should lose everything in your stock portfolio and bank accounts because why? All the information of why what's going on in the system is available to you. So, because it's not like it's not like you were we're in in Germany in 1937, right? Where you couldn't where you notice that there's something going on with the Hitler guy, but come on, how are you going to get this information, right? That he wants to kill off a bunch of Jews. You can't, right? Well, in today's society, you can find out that the Hitlers are going to kill off the Jews. In this particular case, you can find out that none of the shit you own in the bank is yours. This is not hidden. They're not hiding it. So once you realize that, you take it out.
It started with the realization.
Yeah. So, and if you don't want to realize it, if you want to believe that that's not true, more power to you. When that happens, when the truth comes and hits you in the space, you go, oh, shoot, I'm never going to do that again. Yeah, you can actually own assets, right? Going forward. And that's what's needed, right? People need to get smacked in the head. What the frig you were doing, right? Start owning your assets.
So in like, what will be their call to action right now? Just someone sitting down there and thinking, what should be my way of preserving my wealth? What should be the call to action?
I don't know how you want to do it, right? And there's more than one ways to skin any particular cat. But what I'm doing is that I only own assets that I can directly hold, that I could have direct possession of it. That's it. If I can't have direct possession of it, I'm not bothering it. Now, is there a way for you to hold stocks directly? Yes, there is. It's not like you can't just, your broker might say, no, there's no way. Or the broker would go, well, we can give you a segregated account. Don't believe that. That's a scam. And you have to get direct ownership of your stocks. And you can do it that way. You can own your stocks directly. And once you do, they can't take it away from you. Right? So it's not like my way is the only way, right? Where I only own Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, gold, silver, and stuff like that. But if you want to do it your way, you gotta make sure all this information is available for you. It's not like now we have AI to actually confirm everything that I'm saying, right? So you could check it and then say, okay, this is not going to work. I better do something about it, right? And then do something, right? Whatever you want to do, it's you decide how that path looks for you, and just make sure you understand what's going on and why it is, and then make a choice.
You told Bitcoin at $1. Today, Bitcoin is sitting around approx 80, 90, and $100,000, and you bought it very early. Do you honestly believe so? It's still early for them, or they should look into different assets?
Yes, it's very early because right now the institutional players are the ones who are able to buy now. They're buying now because they can buy in volume. They couldn't buy in volume before, right? When it first started off, right, they couldn't buy $1 billion worth of Bitcoin because there wasn't $1 billion worth to buy anywhere, and nobody would sell it to them. And why would you want to do that? Because you'd run up the price. Now, today, those people, those institutional players, they understand what it is. They know how that they need this asset, and so effectively, They are trying to buy the lows. They have these institutional players, a lot of them have rules of buying. And one of the rules is that they can only buy down markets. So you can bet that they're going to create down markets.
Tell me one thing, like it's easier said than done for very new people. Like when we are in bear market, we are seeing everything getting broken, and it feels like it's never going to be any upside there. What will be your advice for them?
Well, my advice is that I'm not looking for short-term gains, right? That's what when I was investing. I watched Bitcoin go from $1 to $32, and I bought the $32 to top, started buying it all the way down, and it went all the way down to $2, and I didn't care. Why? Because I was not looking for short-term gains. Number one thing, I was not looking for short-term gains. I was looking for long-term gains, and I think I got it.
Whole world saw that.
Yes, it's been 15 years, but hey, you know what? Honestly, let's pretend you wanted to start off whether you're 20 years old, you wanted to build your own corporation, big corporation that's making, let's just say, conservatively $1 million a year, right? How long do you think will it take for you to actually build that from scratch? From just you deciding today, I've got nothing. One day I'm going to be making $1 million a year. How long do you think that will take? You just guesstimate.
One year?
No, I mean it's possible, but in reality, right? Unless you have super knowledge, the knowledge like if you're Alex Hermosi, yes, 1 year. but since you're not, right?
Yeah.
Since you're not, the reality is it will take you 5 years because you have to learn things, you have to make mistakes.
If scratch, yes.
Right? You have to gain the abilities over time to do that. This is what it takes really to become successful just in business as an entrepreneur. Now, the same applies when you're saving Bitcoin or when you're saving in general. It will take you 5 years at least to see, oh, look at that. I'm actually moving up out of poverty and I'm doing very well. And then it really starts to take off after the 5 years. If you continue down the path and learning, because it's more, because here's the thing, what you've learned, what you've done in the first 5 years is different for the next 5 years.
This is coming straight from the guy who has spent more time than 98% of the people in crypto that have at least 5-year timeline, and you will get off it.
Yes.
Let's say you are the guy who created Bitcoin at $1. What will be that 3 cryptos that you see a huge potential that can be a life-changing opportunity, same like Bitcoin according to you?
Well, I don't think there's guarantees with any of those other cryptos. If you want to buy them, there's no guarantees that they'll do extremely well as Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin will outperform them. In fact, if you do technical analysis against all other cryptos with Bitcoin, the TA shows that Bitcoin is going to go to 95% in dominance against all other cryptos. So with that said, right, that doesn't mean that the other cryptos will have, times of spikes where they spike really high and they outperform Bitcoin for a short amount of time. Some cryptos such as the Solana, Sui, and maybe even Cardano may outperform Bitcoin for a short amount of time and do well. But then at the end of the day, they're not going to outperform Bitcoin. Even Caspa, I like Caspa. I think Caspa might do something crazy for a while, but at the same time, they're very high risk. There's no chance. There's no guarantee that they will actually do anything great and actually outperform Bitcoin. So just keep that in mind.
Solana, Sui, and
Casper and maybe Cardano.
Caspa and Cardano. Okay, you have been very vocal about XRP. What's your thought? Like, is it a good investment or is it like, okay?
It's like saying, hey, I would like to have the Federal Reserve take over. Yeah, it's okay that they print money and they're going to give it to their friends. It's okay. I don't mind being poor. That's what XRP is. XRP is a scam against humanity. Don't get involved. They created a bunch of tokens. They gave it all to their friends, and in fact, they can change the rules of the protocol at any time, so they can increase the amount of tokens if they want to. Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to get into that? Why would you want to support that? People do because they believe the propaganda that the banks are going to start using it. I've interviewed people from the banks. They said, we're not using that crap. Okay, so what's the use case then, right? But they just sold it to so many people, and so many people believe that this is real, and they're going to learn the hard way, unfortunately.
Is there any timeline for that?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't care. The information's once again, the reason why I don't care. The information's there. You choose to ignore it. You choose not to look at it. That's fine. Then you're going to choose. You've chosen to get hurt.
Okay.
And not me.
Okay. What is your price prediction for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and in general, any other coin that you like to mention for 2026?
Well, I think a lot of cryptocurrencies are going to be going down in 2026, including Bitcoin. But at the end of it, it will start to go higher. Now, but assuming that the U.S. dollar doesn't collapse in 2026, there's a good chance. There's an increasing chance. Sorry, not a good chance. An increasing chance that could happen.
Okay. What's your price prediction for 2030, like Bitcoin and Ethereum?
For 2030, I think Bitcoin will probably be well over 200,000, and same with Ethereum will be probably over the $10,000 range for finally, thank goodness, but probably even more because these things will probably be even more because there's a clear indication according to AI after I fed it all the data. Said, hey, listen, this is going on, this is going on, this is going on. Do you really think that the U.S. dollar is going to last 10 years? And it said, no, not really. It looks like...
Even 10 years.
5 years, 1 to 5 years is at most.
1 to 5 years.
Yeah.
US dollar can collapse in 1 to 5 years.
1 to 5 years. That's what the AI said after I showed it all the information. I said, this is true, this is true, this is true, this is true. Based on that. Based on historical records of currencies that had all this happen, how long we got? And it said, yeah, all these are true, and based on that, there's no guarantees of anything, right? But you got 1 to 5 years.
Okay. Other than Bitcoin, what would be that one asset? Like you saw Bitcoin very early at $1. Other than Bitcoin, what will be that one asset that you feel still it's very early and you will like to go long term in that?
Bitcoin or Satoshis. There you go. That's it. Bitcoin and Satoshis.
Perfect. What's the best piece of advice that you have got so far in your life?
Best piece of advice that I've gotten so far. Man, Jesus. I've gotten a lot of pieces of advice. But I don't think there's one that I can say that's the best piece of advice. It is a collection of them. And for the best piece of advice is just you know what? All the information that you need to know is out there. You just need to go and get it and use it.
Okay. And what is the message that you want to leave for this world?
The message I want to leave for the world?
Yep.
Oh, well, I would like everyone to never go back to fiat currency, because it ends up, all the wealth goes to the worst people. If you can print money for free, right, you're not going to be a really good person, are you? So let's not do that again, because those people are really bad at the top. Obviously, because they know they're stealing. Duh. So if you're a thief, do you think you're like really a good? Oh, I'm going to be nice to everybody. No, you don't give a crap. You want them all wiped out. You don't want to have this kind of money system ever come back again.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Perfect.
All right.